A young man carrying a black bag walks into the library. Shortly after, police report multiple casualties. A woman, terrified, hides behind a bookshelf, pleading for help. An officer, weapon drawn, rushes into the scene. In the interrogation room, the suspect coldly asks if anyone died. Bullets piercing through bookshelves bear witness to the horrific crime. The peaceful atmosphere of the library has been completely shattered by him. Armed forces immediately storm the building to hunt down the shooter. He had been strolling casually around the reception desk as if nothing were wrong. Now, he sits slumped and emotionless after committing the murders. Minutes before the shooting, he was seen walking slowly toward the entrance. He loitered in the main lobby before turning directly into the restroom. Surveillance footage shows that he had planned this in advance. He maniacally declared that he would carry out a massacre himself. A faint apology was uttered before he opened fire. He justified his actions by claiming he felt completely trapped. He insisted he did not want to involve his family, despite committing such a heinous crime. Personal grievances drove him to carry a gun into the library. That cold-blooded face showed no sign of hesitation or remorse. He even had the leisure to post a photo of the bag containing the gun online. Back on the security camera, he lingers for a moment at the water fountain. No one realized the murderous intent radiating from this young man. Life continued as normal in those final moments. The people at the reception desk were unaware that a tragedy was about to strike. A sharp gunshot rang out, causing everyone to flee in panic. The crowd scrambled frantically away from the children's area. A brave individual pulled a woman to safety, away from the line of fire. He walked sullenly through the library with a gun in his hand. A few lucky people found an emergency exit on the side of the building. Inside, the main lobby quickly turned into a scene of horrific chaos. Victims hid under the service counter to dodge the gunfire. The woman frantically looked for a place to hide among the bookshelves. She trembled, praying for someone to come and save her. The group hiding under the far counter finally risked their lives to run outside. They crawled low to the ground to avoid becoming his targets. An officer rushed in, ready for combat. Outside, civilians frantically called the police to report the incident. The alarm blared throughout the quiet library space. The sound of gunfire echoed, terrifying those hiding on the floor. The woman tried to reassure herself that she must survive this ordeal. Police cars with flashing lights sped toward the scene from all directions. The shooter continued to stroll leisurely, searching for new prey. The rapid response team, rifles in hand, approached the main entrance of the library. Police stormed the main hall to gain control of the violent situation. They constantly kept their weapons pointed, scanning every suspicious corner. Civilians were ordered to lie flat on the ground to ensure their safety. Anyone who came into view had to raise their hands high. Police surrounded the room where people were hiding to conduct a rescue. The terrified victims raised their hands and stepped out into the light. After being confirmed safe, they were instructed to lock the door behind them. The process of sweeping for the shooter remained extremely tense. Police kicked open doors and shouted to identify themselves so civilians would feel at ease. They urgently guided the trapped individuals to safety. Every reading room was thoroughly searched, leaving no corner unchecked. Police moved deeper inside with a high level of vigilance. The group of men who were hiding were asked to lie face down and were temporarily handcuffed. This is a protocol to rule out the possibility of the perpetrator blending in. A civilian reported that the suspect was wearing a black shirt and a hat. Thanks to this description, the police were able to identify him. Officers continued to search in the direction the suspect had just fled. Searching the massive library area proved to be very difficult. A few female witnesses were found hiding behind computer desks. Police led the young woman out to identify the cold-blooded shooter. She pointed in terror at the exact face of the shooter who had just passed by. Immediately, the police rushed toward the subject who was surrendering. He had voluntarily discarded the gun right on the reception desk. The officer carefully checked the weapon to see if it was still loaded. The shooter walked slowly out into the lobby and raised his hands to surrender. The suspect's surrender occurred after an encounter with a passerby. He waited with chilling indifference for the police to arrive and handcuff him amidst the blaring sirens. Armed officers quickly moved in to neutralize the dangerous suspect. He was forced to the ground and handcuffed behind his back. The apprehension was swift and required minimal effort. In another corner, civilians were still attempting to escape the building. Special tactical units cleared the scene to search for potential accomplices. Officers interrogated the man standing closest to the crime scene. They secured all entry and exit points to seal off the investigation area. A crowd of panicked people fled the targeted area. A female officer stood guard to ensure the scene remained secure. An elderly woman hid behind a bookshelf, weeping in sheer terror. Medical personnel were urgently summoned to treat the victims. Officers outside remained on high alert, weapons drawn at every movement. Civilians were directed to the adjacent building for shelter. Ambulances rushed to the scene to transport the wounded. Despite the danger, officers continued to search every last bookshelf. A somber atmosphere permeated the vast reading room. No traces of a second firearm were discovered. Reports confirmed this was a lone wolf attack. A single deranged individual had claimed the lives of many. Fortunately, no one was trapped in the children's play area. Flashlights illuminated the dark, chilling corners of the room. Police suddenly discovered a group of people huddled inside a storage closet. They quickly escorted each person out of the cramped hiding spot. A staff member emerged, appearing completely traumatized. Her shoulder was bleeding from a stray bullet wound. Tragically, she was the wife of one of the responding officers. A colleague immediately called for medical staff to apply a tourniquet and bandage the wound. Despite her injury, she struggled to remain calm in that life or death moment. Officers thoroughly inspected the locked office. Inside was a scene of devastation with belongings scattered everywhere. 2 librarians had fallen during the shooting. The blood of the innocent had stained the peaceful sanctuary of knowledge. The officers were heartbroken to witness the bodies lying among the bookshelves. A 10-year-old boy collapsed from a gunshot wound, leaving everyone devastated. They quickly carried the young victim to the ambulance outside. The tragedy unfolded so rapidly that the boy had no chance to react. Who could have guessed that such a cold-blooded individual was capable of such cruelty? He claimed he had tossed the gun away after firing indiscriminately. Police hauled the perpetrator out of the mire of his own crimes. The suspect was escorted under heavy guard through the main library lobby. He was dragged out to the lawn before the indignant eyes of the crowd. He remained silent and sullen while being lifted for inspection. Police forced him to his knees to conduct a full body search. Every pocket was searched for evidence. He responded curtly to the firm stance of law enforcement. He brazenly declared that he did not trust any police officer. The officers ignored him and continued to strip him of his belongings. He was shoved into a patrol car to be taken straight to the station for interrogation. At the scene, dozens of shell casings were scattered across the carpet. The black bag filled with ammunition was seized by police as evidence. The young suspect walked sullenly down the police station hallway. He coldly stated his name and age before being taken into the interrogation room. His vacant expression made the investigator's skin crawl. Police ordered him to sit still and strictly comply with all instructions. The conversation served as a preliminary step to clarify the suspect's identity. The officer tried to maintain the most composed demeanor possible. They told him to report immediately if the handcuffs were too tight and causing pain. He obeyed obediently while maintaining his look of total apathy. When asked about injuries, he nonchalantly said he had ringing in his ears. The deafening sound of gunfire in the enclosed room had shocked his eardrums. He also denied using any stimulants before committing the crime. The killer's brazen attitude disgusted everyone who witnessed it. He even had the nerve to remind the police about his church schedule. It is absurd that someone who just killed people would worry about being late for prayer. The police turned a deaf ear to the lunatic's nonsensical questions. He admitted that he knew full well that many people had been shot and killed. This cold-blooded realization only deepens the suspect's inherent cruelty. In the hallway, an officer recounts the extent of the carnage. The corridors are stained with the blood of the victims. The gravity of the case has sent shockwaves through the security forces. Officers whisper to one another to prevent the suspect from overhearing details. The killer sits in the room, completely indifferent to the situation. Footage shows him arriving at the library with sinister intent. Those erratic behaviors led to a tragic outcome. The officer walks past the holding cell, checking on the suspect. She reports to her colleague that everything remains secure. The officer struggles to maintain composure when facing the perpetrator. An officer steps in to photograph the suspect for the case file. He claims the scratches on his face were accidentally caused by his girlfriend. He also obediently lifts his shirt for the officer's physical inspection. The scars across his abdomen betray a history of rebellion. The 10th grade student has spiraled deep into his own mistakes. In his white protective suit, he fidgets while biting the cap of a water bottle. The police decide to transport him for a general health evaluation. The journey through the dark night to the medical center takes place in silence. At the medical center, nurses take turns questioning him about his medical history. Contrary to his youthful appearance, he speaks incessantly about drug use. Alcohol or high-dosage sedatives were substances he frequently consumed. This admission leaves the nurse on duty stunned by such premature delinquency. He also admits to suffering from depression but had abandoned treatment. His psychiatrist was later sued for professional negligence. Had they intervened in time, perhaps this horrific tragedy would not have occurred. The killer's discarded shoes lie abandoned at the scene. The father rushes home, sensing something is terribly wrong. He searches his son's room and discovers several razor blades. Overcome with anxiety, he immediately rushes to open the safe to check his weapons. Horror sets in when he realizes 2 semi-automatic handguns are missing. The delinquent had stolen his father's guns to commit the crime. In the library restroom, he had maniacally opened fire on innocent people. He claims he opened fire simply because he felt angry when the alarm sounded. The cane of a disabled victim lies bare next to the scattered bloodstains. He callously took the lives of people he did not even know. His motive for the killing stemmed from being bullied at school. He harbored resentment, believing that no one understood him. He masked his obedient facade by attending church services. But deep inside, a monster was waiting for the day to break free. The bullet holes embedded in the wall prove his inhumane, murderous intent. When asked about the consequences, he only shakes his head, claiming he does not care. That hollow attitude further highlights the twisted nature of the killer's mind. He secretly recorded his pent-up frustrations before carrying out the massacre. He looks pale and delusional when declaring his reckless actions. He hated the world and chose to resolve his pain through bloody violence. Using the excuse of being backed into a corner, he took up arms to take lives. Even while constantly claiming to love his parents, he callously shattered all moral boundaries. He intentionally justified his crimes to release long-accumulated psychological resentment. Footage from the school shows that he was actually the aggressor who initiated the fight. He grabbed another student by the hair and beat him savagely in the middle of the schoolyard. Clearly, a bloodthirsty nature was deeply ingrained in his bones. He delusionally paints himself as a victim pushed to the edge to fabricate a motive for the killing. The video recording is a rambling sequence from a deranged mind that has lost all sense of reality. Unprovoked rage clouded the reason of the teenage killer. He ended his nonsensical rant before grabbing his guns to create a catastrophe. A life sentence is a fitting end for such an unforgivable crime. His expressionless face reflects the killer's dissatisfaction with the world. A fake expression of gratitude was uttered by the cold-blooded killer without a hint of remorse. His sinister smile, when facing the sentencing, only caused more outrage. The unfortunate victims fell, leaving behind profound grief for their families. So many innocent lives were cut short by his wicked gun. The trial has concluded with the harshest possible sentence for the teenager. Prison bars will confine his demonic soul for the rest of his life. Even so, changes in the law could grant him a chance for early parole. The possibility of a killer walking free in society raises many concerns.